I'm going to be reviewing the Mars Lumograph by Steadtler Graphite Pencils and demonstrating this little monkey. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. One of my friends actually gave me this set of graphite pencils to test out because they're her personal favorites. How do you turn down a free gift of pencils? If you are supporters over on Patreon, the 2-hour version of this tutorial is available for you now, complete with voiceover, so make sure to head over and check that out. Now we'll move on to this review and tutorial. Now for this guy, if you want to draw this exact little tamarin, I have made this reference photo available for you over on my Patreon site. It will be available for anyone. You do not have to be signed up for Patreon to get access to it. It will be posted there. I will have a link in the video description. So what I'm doing, I am starting out by blocking in his eyes. They're not quite the right shape. I'm going to have to even those out. I definitely think normally something like this with that much tiny detail, I would much prefer to use a mechanical pencil, but being that I'm testing these out for this one, that is not what I've reached for. But I do recommend pick up a mechanical pencil because it makes it so much easier to get some of these little teeny tiny details when you're working in graphite if you're doing something very small like this. Now, the majority of what I'm going to do is starting out with a mid-range, and then I will slowly build up to my darker values. This will help me to keep from having too much of a grainy gritty feel. The funny thing with that though is with his fur, he's very fuzzy looking. I actually want a little bit of that grainy gritty feel, so I'm intentionally starting out a little bit darker than I normally would if I wanted something to be very soft and very silky looking. I've got to pay close attention to the direction of his fur. The 7 and 8B in my set have a very high carbon content. They're more like a carbon pencil, a waxy carbon pencil almost. I like them much better than a regular carbon pencil. They're not quite as soft, and they stick, I'm guessing because of that waxy content, whatever they're making it with. It sticks on top of the graphite so well. From what I understand, they have separated their pencils that have carbon content from the graphite pencils like what I've got here. So you may have to look for a different product or buy this company that is their, I believe they call them their black pencils, but check into that if you want to try those out. I am really liking them, and I hope that they don't change that sort of waxy feel that they have to them, because it does make it stick on top of regular graphite so well, which has not really been my experience with regular carbon pencil. When I use regular carbon pencils, I will generally work where the carbon pencil's in one area and the graphite's in another, and they'll overlap a little bit, but not too much. Here, I could overlap them and it was no problem. And that 7 and 8B were very dark because of that. But I don't want to start with that even on my areas that are going to be the darkest, because it's going to be hard to get that into all the little nooks and crannies of the paper, which is how you end up with that grainy gritty feel. I need to start with my lighter colors first, the harder leaded pencils, which will really get into all those little nooks and crannies and cover the white so that when I go on top with the darks, that contrast isn't so high that you're seeing that gritty grainy feel as much. Now, the lighter pencils with these I was not that impressed with. They are super scratchy. They're very hard, and I found myself depending more on my shading tool than I do with other pencils like the Faber-Castell 9000 series. They're still usable. I just had to adjust my techniques a bit from how I've used with some other, or worked with some other pencils. You'll see the eraser that I'm using in there is the Tombow mono eraser. I love that guy. I use it all the time when working in graphite, and I'll have a link to that in the video description. Now I'm just slowly building up, making sure I copy the direction of the fur. I don't need each strand of fur to be exact. I just need to make sure I'm going in approximately the right direction, that my highlights are in the right place, that my shadows are in the right place. You don't want to start adding highlights and shadows for the sake of highlights and shadows. Make sure that they're in the right location, because that is what determines the underlying bone and muscular structure, that along with the direction of the fur. So you need to make sure that you've got those aspects correct in order to make your subject look realistic. If you have highlights in the wrong spot, whether it be an animal or a person, you can make them look almost deformed, or you're completely changing the structure underneath the fur or skin if it's skin that you're highlighting in the wrong place. When working on hands and feet, and I cannot stress this enough, slow down. Plan on spending a ton of time on those areas to make sure you get all of the little details and get everything just right. If you rush over that thinking it's a small area, I don't need to take much time, your end result is going to show that, and it will really pull down your piece. If you are a pet portrait artist, leaving out, I see this being a problem a lot for people. They want to either cut the paws off so they're not in the image, or they rush over them so that they just look like these little stumps. They don't look like paws. Take the extra time. Plan on putting as much time into hands, feet, paws, anything like that as you do the rest of the portrait. Actually, I would say put more time into that. It's a very, very important thing. Doesn't matter how great everything else looks, if you rush through that, it will make the rest look not so great. So I've got to make sure that my pencils are very sharp because I am working in this smaller area. And that is another thing. If you're somebody who does not like the grainy, gritty feel of graphite, and this is going to be the same with colored pencil, sharpen your pencils. Make sure they stay very sharp. That's going to help your pencil to get into all those nooks and crannies on the paper. This paper, by the way, is the Stonehenge. This is the one sold in the pad, not the individual sheets that you see me working colored pencil. This one is a bit smoother. It's got more of a vellum finish. Now, this reference photo, if you are going to copy this one, he is behind glass, and so you will see some reflections that I've obviously taken out for the purpose of the artwork. One of the really nice things about graphite is I feel like it's a very hard medium for manufacturers to screw up. No matter which ones you give me, I'm probably going to be fairly happy with the end result. I may complain about things here and there, like they're a little bit scratchy, these ones tend to not go as smooth, but I still was happy with the end result. And that's pretty much the case with every graphite pencil that I've used, even the ones that do have that scratchier feel. You can work around it, you can work with it. I don't feel like you have to have the most expensive pencil you can find to do great graphite work. I definitely don't necessarily feel that way about other mediums like colored pencil or acrylic. Those I think are more temperamental and do require higher quality to get higher quality end results. But these, or with any graphite pencils, I've always been fairly happy with them. It's just not a medium I'm that picky with. So I'm adding the shadows, I'm moving onto the rock here. Now, the thing that I've got to watch is to make sure that I've got contrast throughout all of this. I'm going to be going pretty dark on my background, but I need to make sure that that monkey is not just blending into the background in with those other dark colors. When I get the shadows in here on this rock, I'm using a fairly loose hand. It's a little bit sketchy, working in little circles. And for the next section, you will see that real time. If you want to check out the live stream and see how I'm actually moving my hand, you'll be able to get a better idea there. But after I get my color blocked in, I came back through with that Tombow mono eraser and erased little bits to create more of that rough texture of the rock. And then onto this background, I do have the live stream if you want to watch how I'm putting this on real time. It is a slow process, very, very slow. What I'm doing is I'm starting with my lightest pencil, or not my lightest, but a light pencil. I believe that was a 2 or a 4H. I blocked everything in, I blended it out with a blending cloth. Then I go on top with a slightly darker color, and I slowly build up. By slowly building up this way, it helps me to end up with not such a grainy, gritty look like I would get if I had just jumped into the darkest pencils. If you go with your darkest pencils right up against that white paper, it's just, the lead is softer. It's not going to get into all the little nooks and crannies, and then you've got this higher contrast of the dark up against the white paper. This way, I'm blocking in with those harder leaded pencils. I'm really blocking in and making sure that all of those little nooks and crannies are filled in so that when I come on top with the black or the very dark, or in this case, carbon pencils, the dark, it's not as much of a contrast between this and the white paper, so it doesn't look as grainy or gritty. You get a much softer end result. And there are times that you're going to want things to have that grainy, gritty feel. Like I said with the coat on the little monkey, he has a very fuzzy look to him, so I don't want that to be too smooth. For this background though, I do want that to be fairly smooth, and I'm just slowly layering and darkening everything up. Again, very slow process. Normally I will do my backgrounds first just because I tend to get burnt out. This is not a fun part of the piece to me, so I start to rush every time I do a background last. So it's much better for me to do the background first. The only reason I did it this way is because I wanted to have something done before I got started on the live stream, so I worked backwards. But normally, I definitely like to get that background done and out of the way so I don't have to worry about it. Get the boring part done so I can move on to the fun part. Now, as I work, I can start working on the contrast to make sure that my subject stands out from the background. That's really what I'm focusing on at this point. Darkening areas up and lightening other areas up so that he stands out. I've got a tree trunk here. And for this, and the background as well, I don't have to copy those exactly. It would be a bit of a waste of time to try to copy every little thing exact. What I do need to create, though, is the same texture. So I want to make sure that my pencil lines are going in the same direction as whatever the lines are on that reference photo. I want to create realism without spending the rest of my life working on one single piece to get every little thing exact. So this is one of those close but not exact parts. Blended that out with a blending cloth there, and using that Tombow mono eraser to pull up highlights. Building more shadows. And I don't want to go too dark on this tree trunk behind him because it would not allow him to stand out as much as I need him to. I'm going to have to come back through and add some highlights on him too, especially around his feet and legs. Right now, they're definitely blending into that rock more than I would like them to. I spent a total of about 3 days working on this piece, and once I get to the last couple of hours, which is where I am here, this is where I stop depending so much on that reference photo. I put it away, I continuously back away from my work and decide what do I need to do to make mine stand out more, or adjust so that the subject in this case stands out more. I just keep backing up. Another tip that you can do is to take a photo with your phone so that you're looking at it on a small screen. Sometimes you'll notice so many things that you want to adjust or change. Again, I am making this photo or the reference photo available to anybody. If you just head over to the link below in the video description to my Patreon page, you do not have to sign up. The post will be there, available for you to download for free. Thanks for watching. Again, if you're supporters over on Patreon, the longer version of this video is available for you now, complete with voiceover, so make sure to head over and check that out. If you're new to my channel, I have new video critiques every Tuesday where I'm critiquing your original paintings or drawings, my own speed paintings, drawings, and tutorials every Wednesday, our Q&A videos every Thursday, and artist vlogs each weekend. And now I've also been doing live streams once a week, usually on Wednesdays. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. All of those social media sites are linked below in the video description where you can keep up with the news, my newest work, and see real-time clips of whatever it is I'm currently working on. I'll see you guys tomorrow. After many failed attempts to get a flamingo to come live with me, I instead got a weird looking little baby chicken. Hi, baby chicken. Seriously, sweetest little chicken ever. Just a disclaimer, if you happen to have baby chickens at home, don't bring them in your studio when there are oil painting or paint any type of fumes in general. That is very toxic for birds, so something you definitely want to be aware of. I've not oil painted in a while, so he's safe to come in my studio right now. Look how helpful the baby chicken is. He's holding my video list for me. Or eating the video list and throwing it on the floor. I don't think that I'm done convincing flamingos to try to live with me. I think I'm going to use the baby chicken who lives here already to entice them. Because who wouldn't want to live with you? Seriously, stop eating my ring.